Ready to go. Count me in. Good morning, Fort McMurray, Wood Buffalo, and the rest of the world. You've tuned in to the Mac City Morning Show. I'm your host, Elliot Pierre, and we're going to start the show off the same way we start every show off, with a moment of gratitude. I know you could be doing a million other things with your time, so the fact that you're spending with us truly does mean the world to me. On that note, Tanner, hit him with the intro.
How's she cutting me, loves? You're listening to the Mac City Morning Show.
All right, and we're back. Okay, we have a very, very fun guest here today. I'm excited. As you guys know, I do not introduce my guests. I let them do that by themselves. But I will give you a little bit of a spoiler. Our guest today is running for mayor. So on that note, can you please introduce yourself and tell everybody who you are?
Thanks for having me this morning. I've been watching the Mac City Morning Show and listening to it and finding out so much about our community.
That's awesome.
I'm Verna Murphy, and as you mentioned, I'm currently running for the seat for mayor for the entire region of the municipality of Wood Buffalo. Yeah. I'm a mom of 3 and foster mom of several others that still call me mom, and a wife to Tim for the last 26 years.
Right on. Yeah. Okay, there you go. That's a big story that you have there.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we get into talking about like you running for mayor and like potentially like what your thought process is on where Fort McMurray should go, the first thing I'd like to get to know about you for the people at home is kind of like who you are, where you're from, why you came to Fort McMurray, and like why are you still here, or like why have you decided after all these years to call it home? So let's get a little bit of background on you.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Cape Breton, a small village called Mabu Harbor, which, you know, I grew up there. My dad was a fisherman, and my mom worked, once we got old enough, she went back to work at the local distillery that actually makes the only single malt scotch in North America.
Oh.
And yeah, so it's a really beautiful spot that I grew up in. And we moved here 15 years ago.
Okay.
We actually were a family that my husband initially had made the move out, and the local paper mill was going through like a lockout.
Right.
And a lot of us were moving at the same time.
Yeah.
And so it took a while for our home to sell back there. Mm-hmm. So initially, Tim was out almost a year before us. So he's been here about 16 years. And then we followed the next year.
Yeah.
And we were a family that once we got here, you hear so many people say, they had a 3-year plan or a 5-year plan. And once we moved here, we knew that this was home. And,
right.
We still don't really ever plan to move back to the East Coast. Hopefully we'll have some grandchildren in Fort McMurray eventually, but not too soon.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. Okay, cool. So when you got to Fort McMurray, I know you didn't just jump right into politics right away.
No.
What did you do when you first arrived here?
Well, actually, the first couple of months that I was working here, I took a job, the quickest job I could get, and I actually worked at the registry office.
Okay.
And it was the downtown location, and I was there. Didn't last a whole long time. I was there for probably 7 months.
Okay.
And just wasn't a fit for me. And the very, very last customer that I ever served, I had let him in before the Christmas break, after the doors were locked.
Okay.
And he said, "So you're leaving this job, are you going to site?" And I said, "No." I said, "I don't know what I want to do yet."
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, you're in Fort McMurray now. If you could do anything in the world, like, what would you do?" And I would say, obviously write. And he said, "Oh, are you a writer?" And I said, "Yeah, I worked for newspapers and magazines on the East Coast." And he kind of started laughing and introduced himself, and it was Tim O'Rourke.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, and he was the publisher of the Fort McMurray Today newspaper at the time.
Yeah.
And it took me a couple of days to work up my nerve to actually send him some of my work.
Okay.
And he called me into his office and hired me, I think it was December 28th of that a week or two after Christmas. So, yeah. So
that's a cool story.
Yeah, Tim was a great mentor to me and taught me a lot. But my most experience and the thing that I did the most in Fort McMurray was write about every issue and write about the region for almost 16 years, because I had actually started writing about Fort McMurray before I even moved here.
Oh, Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing. What a cool story. You never know.
No, you don't.
Like
You
the
really
last
don't.
customer, doors are locked. You know what? Come in. And
Yeah.
like it changes the trajectory of your life.
Completely.
Wow,
Completely.
that is
And
cool.
years later, I got the Media Award of the Year.
Okay.
And Tim was there, and
Yeah.
he's since passed away from
Yes.
cancer.
That's right.
And he was there that night, and I got up on stage and I told that little story.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you talk about fate,
Yeah.
that man was a real inspiration to me, such a community-minded spirit that, you know, just did so much work for Fort McMurray.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he taught me so much.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, there's one thing that you mentioned when you're doing your introduction, that you have a pretty large family, but you've had a number of foster children as well.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated about that for most people that decide, like, I'm going to bring in these children. Can you go a little bit in detail about, like, how you got into that and why you continue to participate?
It's kind of a running joke in our house because when I was writing for the Fort McMurray Today newspaper, I went and I wrote a story about the SPCA had too many dogs and they needed people to come and adopt the dogs. So then I landed home with the dog.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I written about, you know, the great need, and there still is a great need for foster parents in our region.
Right.
And we became foster parents.
Yeah.
And, you know, I wrote about, you know, the foster kids that were still in the system when they could be adopted. So then we adopted.
That's right.
And so my husband now says, you know, if you're going to write about anything, you should just run the story by me first. Right?
Yeah. No doubt.
So yeah,
That's awesome.
at the time, and still continuing.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of our children in the region are sent out of region because we don't have enough foster parents.
Right.
And it was, and it's still a concern of mine because, you know, unfortunately, when these children are taken out of their homes, there's usually some type of trauma or neglect or, you know, just there's so many different situations.
Right.
And so, but they still love their mom and dad and their siblings.
Right.
And when they get sent to Calgary or Red Deer,
Yeah.
not only are they being removed from their home, but they're being removed from their friends, their teachers, you know, everything that they really know.
That's right.
So that's why, you know, we got involved, and then we adopted Shailene. She's 12 now.
Yeah.
And she was born on Friday night and came home with us on Saturday morning.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
you know, I did palliative care before I came to Fort McMurray as well.
Okay.
And I find that in both those fields, a lot of people will say, well, why did you get involved with that? It's so hard.
Right.
And I always had the experience that, you know, if you don't get involved,
Yeah.
you know, who will step up? And
That's right.
we always had the love and the ability to do those kinds of things.
Right.
And in some ways, that's what kind of drew me into politics as well the last couple of years.
Okay.
I was really tired of just writing about subjects, and I can remember about 8 years ago, another counselor at the time had kind of challenged me and said, you know, you're writing about these things, and if you want to make a change in some of the things that you're writing about and feeling frustrated about, why don't you put your name forward for council?
Right.
And so I did.
Yeah.
And I lost.
Okay. Okay.
And then I took that loss as a lesson.
Yeah.
And I really spent, you know, the next 2 years working even harder in the community. And I got more involved with the boards. And, you know, I served with different local social profits on their boards, attended every single council meeting, and was still covering the council meetings at the times as a journalist.
Okay.
And just started taking other courses and, you know, just trying to gather as much knowledge about the region, but also about municipal government and how it works.
Right.
And ran again last time and was successful and was able to get onto council.
There you go. So you've been on council now for some of the hardest times. Like in regards to, we've had a lot of adversity over the last few years, to say the least.
It's been, again, a learning experience.
Yeah.
I got elected not that long after the fire.
Right.
and we were still in our own rebuild. We actually didn't finish until last February, like
That's right.
just before
Okay.
COVID hit,
Yeah.
and we had the flood, of course, last year.
Yeah.
So, and again, I was writing about all of the issues and covering the council meetings like right after the fire.
Right.
And it's been, it's been a lot of challenges the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And there's still so much work. I still talk to people that are rebuilding since the fire. And
Right.
so, we still have lots of work to do in the region to get through our recovery from that, and then the flood, but also from COVID.
Yeah.
We've been hit hard the last number of years in Fort McMurray from the downturn in the economy as well.
Yeah.
So lots of work to do.
No doubt. So from councillor now to a run for mayor, why did you decide to make that jump?
Yeah. I always have been a person that, I've incorporated all my life lessons into everything I do. Number of years ago, I had a bone marrow transplant and, had lost all my hair and, all of that experience definitely made me stronger. My husband had been hit by a drunk driver, and, we've had a lot of personal challenges.
Right.
But in the last 4 years being on council, I've really realized a few things about myself. And one is that I really have the skill set to be a good leader and, a good communicator. And I take great pride in the fact that I've been able to work with people that have challenged me and that have taught me lots.
Right.
And I really feel that given all my experience from being through those hard things the last number of years of just living in Fort McMurray,
Yeah.
but also my personal experience, that I'm just ready.
Yeah.
I'm ready to step into that role.
That's awesome.
I'm ready to build a strong team of whoever is elected. I've already been reaching out to all of the candidates who are running. I've had, even with those that are running against me for the mayor position,
Yeah.
I've had some conversations with them as well. So I do take great pride in the fact that I'm always a team player.
Right.
I do not bring my own ego or agenda to the table.
Yeah.
And I'm maybe too much of a hard worker at times.
Okay.
I have to find some balance there sometimes, but I've worked on every board that I could in the last few years so that I've been able to gain knowledge about, not just all the different topics in Fort McMurray,
Right.
but all the different issues that are not just within the city, but also in the rural areas.
Okay. Cool. There we go. All right. Now we've come to the part of the show called the Mac City Minute. This is
Yeah.
Tanner's segment. I never know what he's going to ask. So Tanner, hit her with the Mac City Minute.
All right. Question number 1. What is your favorite place in Fort McMurray to enjoy a day out?
Oh, that's an easy one. It's definitely on the Sny or any of the rivers, Clearwater, Athabasca. Grew up on the East Coast, so if I can get out for a day of floating or a day on a boat with friends and family here, it's the best way to spend the day.
Question number 2. What is something about Fort McMurray that makes you want to run for council?
Right now, I just see that we're really at a crossroads, and I think that industry is going to be spending some money in the next few years for some capital projects. I think it's important that mayor and council support those initiatives so that we see some more growth in the region. So it's really about continuing that work that I've been doing the last number of years, but also building and repairing some relationships with the province and with industry so that, eventually when those grandkids of mine come, it's going to be an even better place to be living. And it's really about community and bringing back, I find a lot of people say that Fort McMurray is not what it used to be. And I'd like to bring that sense of community back and that pride in community that, people long for. Like,
Right.
yeah, lots of community events and just that sense of togetherness that I think we had it right after the fire, but then COVID and everything has played a factor along with the economy. And so I'm ready for the work.
Cool.
Yeah.
Question number 3. As in your time as a writer, what was the most obscure article you had ever written?
Oh, good question. Oh, wow.
No, Tanner hits them with the hard questions.
Yeah. So I had the opportunity as a writer here to cover so many different topics that I actually, have spoken and given lectures and everything right across the world now.
Okay.
Probably the most obscure one, though, was that I did a series of articles about the health issues in our rural areas. And I got invited to go talk to a symposium in Australia
Oh, wow.
for the United Nations.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I didn't go because my kids were really young at the time. And it was just like the week before Christmas that year that the symposium was happening. It was like December 17th.
Right.
So that was probably the most obscure one, but I've written articles about everything from arranged marriages in Fort McMurray that had been published in the papers in India,
Okay.
to fly in, fly out articles that have been published in journals and stuff in Australia and New Zealand.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Very cool.
yeah, it's pretty cool. I've
Yeah, no
get
doubt.
those things done. Yeah.
Question number 4. What is one thing that the community of Fort McMurray has that you can't find anywhere else?
Oh, well, the people, of course, right? We have such amazing people that live here that have had so many different experiences in their life before they came to Fort McMurray. And so I've learned so much about different cultures and all the diversity and, but also just that, again, that community that you can put out a call for anything in Fort McMurray. And by the end of the day, it's usually done. And, even though I grew up on the East Coast where everybody pitches in,
Yeah.
I've never experienced it at the same level in any other community than Fort McMurray.
And your final question. What is one Fort McMurray gem you think our audience should pay attention to?
Oh, that's a tough one again.
No, Tanner.
I think, again, our waterways are often overlooked.
Okay.
A lot of people have been discovering them the last few years. But I really think that, people could be using them more. The first day that I ever went floating down, like when we came in down below Sarikas there on the Snai,
Yeah.
we were actually bumping into people. Like there's people out on their paddle boards and their
Right.
kayaks and, but I'd like to see some more development along the waterfronts for sure, safely developed, with mitigation in mind. But that and the trails, we have some beautiful trails in Fort McMurray that people still don't know about. So, I think I've kind of taken up that promotion from Councillor Mar as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And those have been your 5 questions.
There you go. Tanner killing it with the questions as per usual, bro.
Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, no, the trail systems are amazing. Same with the water. I know, like myself, I have a kayak, and you just literally, I don't know anywhere else in the world where you can like drive from your house down to the Snai. We're talking 10 minutes tops. Go kayaking.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to drive far to do it.
And it's the same with the OHVs, the off-highway vehicles and side-by-sides. Like those are all things that, are really, fairly easy, cheap infrastructure to put in that is going to improve the quality of life for
sure.
the residents here.
Yeah.
And especially after COVID, everybody's looking for that. Like,
That's
how
right.
can I relax with my family? How can we get outside and enjoy, the warm weather while it's here? And then, in the winter, same thing. Those groom trails and stuff, like the snow drifters and those guys do an amazing job of keeping those trails up. And
Yeah.
same with the Ptarmigan Ski Club, same thing. Just amazing.
There you go. All right, well, Verna, that's it. That's 20 minutes. So thank you very much for coming. Really do appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. I tell everybody this, so don't feel overly special about it. But please take me up on the offer. please come back as many times as you want to. This is a platform that as you continue your run for mayor, you can come back and chat about what's new and what's happening. And at any point in time, if you just want to come and BS with myself and Tanner, we'd love to have you back.
Great.
So it's at the end of the show, though. So now this is your opportunity to do a shameless shout out or a plug. I'm pretty sure I know what you're going to plug, obviously, but the mic's all yours.
Thanks. And thanks again for having me. I love that while watching your show, I've been learning about the residents that live here. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
My shameless plug, of course, is, I really hope that people will support me in the upcoming election. I would never intentionally, bring shame to the region in that role. I would work tremendously hard. I really do just want the opportunity to show Fort McMurray that an average, everyday mom that has, my team is really, my husband is my campaign manager. My kids are helping out door knocking and signs and all those kinds of things. And really my best friends that, really don't even, have interest in politics per se, but they believe in me are my team.
Right.
And I really hope that I can serve Fort McMurray the same way that I've been doing the last 4 years for the next 4 years.
There we go. Awesome. Thank you. All right. On that note, Fort McMurray, Wood Buffalo, and the rest of the world, that's been another episode of the Mac City Morning Show. Thank you very much for tuning in. From the bottom of my heart, I really do appreciate it. Hopefully you're having a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.